I want to talk about this House resolution denouncing the horrors of socialism that the Republicans and 86 Democrats passed today. I might have lost my mind about it a little bit this morning on Blue Sky, but this was done because Zoran Mamdani was meeting with Donald Trump. And Mamdani is a Democratic socialist who ran and was elected as the Democratic mayor of New York City. Katie Wilson, also a Democratic socialist, was elected as the mayor of Seattle this past week. And here in Portland, Oregon, last November, both of the official DSA candidates for city council were elected, although there are as many as 6 members of our city council who are on some level affiliated with the DSA. Now, I myself am not a democratic socialist, but as an anti-capitalist who hopes to live in a post-capitalist world, or bring about a post-capitalist future in this country. I'm not afraid of the word socialism. We still have all of these vestiges, all of this baggage from McCarthyism in this country. And Rush Limbaugh and the Republicans spent years and years and years continuing to paint socialism as some kind of like terrible, insidious evil. As a permaculture person who made predominantly gardening content for years and years, I couldn't talk about the third ethic of fair share without libertarians getting into my comments being like, you sound like a socialist, that's socialism. Yeah, buddy, the concept is set limits to consumption and fair distribution of resources. This vilification of the term socialism, where it is highly conflated by folks on the political right with communism, they're not the same thing. But this vilification of socialism by folks on the political right has very much been about reinforcing capitalism in this country, because democratic socialists are a threat to free market capitalists. But not just those on the political right, also the neoliberal centrists, the corporate establishment Democrats who are beholden to their dark money, billionaire money, their massive stock portfolios. So I might have had a little bit of a meltdown this morning on Blue Sky when I read the news that 86 Democrats joined the Republicans to vote for this resolution. Oh, and in case you're wondering what this ridiculous resolution says, it's entitled Denouncing the Horrors of Socialism. Whereas socialist ideology necessitates a concentration of power that has time and time again collapsed into communist regimes, totalitarian rule, and brutal dictatorships. Wild, considering earlier today Donald Trump said that he didn't mind being called a fascist. Wild in a country where Donald Trump is trying to dismantle democracy and install himself as a dictator. Okay, continuing. Whereas socialism has repeatedly led to famine and mass murders and the killings of over 100 million people worldwide. You want to talk about famine? What about the famine in Gaza? Donald Trump is supporting that. You want to talk about famine? What about the famine in Sudan? Elon Musk and Donald Trump took away 80% of the world's humanitarian aid to Sudan. You want to talk about the deaths of poor people around the world? Elon Musk ending USAID is going to kill 14 million people. Whereas many of the greatest crimes in history were committed by socialist ideologues, and then they list a bunch of them, including Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. But Donald Trump loves the North Korean dictators. Whereas tens of millions died in the Bolshevik Revolution, at least 10 million people were sent to the gulags in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and millions more starved in the terror famine in Ukraine. Bold choice, considering Donald Trump and the Republicans have been sending innocent people to a torture gulag in El Salvador this year. You want to talk about starvation when Donald Trump and Mike Johnson intentionally withheld food aid from 42 million Americans? Jumping down a little bit, whereas the socialist experiment in Cambodia led to the killing fields in which over 1 million people were gruesomely murdered. Didn't Donald Trump just call for the deaths of sitting members of Congress this week? Veterans in Congress who simply reminded members of the military that they should uphold their oath to the Constitution. Donald Trump called for their deaths. He called for them to be hanged. Blah, blah, blah. They go on to talk about North Korea some more and Cuba, continuing to apply all of these whereases to regimes and situations that actually aren't socialism. They're actually fascist totalitarian states, like the one that Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to institute in the United States of America. Whereas the implementation of socialism in Venezuela has turned a once prosperous country into a failed state with the highest rate of inflation in the world. Wild. Have you seen our jobs numbers? Have you seen the economy? It's held together by an AI bubble and toothpicks. Donald Trump has taken a prosperous nation and flushed it down the toilet. The value of the dollar, our credibility, our respectability on an international stage, our power, economic power as a nation. Donald Trump has regressed this country. Donald Trump and the Republicans have made us weaker in every aspect, less prosperous in every aspect. So again, bold choice to put this in the resolution. They then quote some Thomas Jefferson and use it inappropriately. They then quote some James Madison, the father of the Constitution. How fucking dare you, as every single Republican is abandoning their oath to the Constitution in order to facilitate Donald Trump's fascist takeover. You don't fucking get to quote James Madison. They conclude with this bullshit. Whereas the United States was founded on the belief in the sanctity of the individual, to which the collectivistic system of socialism in all its forms is fundamentally and necessarily opposed, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives, the Senate concurring, that Congress denounces socialism in all its forms and opposes the implementation of socialist policies in the United States. 86 Democrats voted for this slop. I'm going to take it down. Take it down a little bit. No, I'm going to get amped up again. Okay, 86 Democrats. What the fuck are you doing? Donald Trump called for members of your own party serving in Congress to be hanged. And this is your priority? Donald Trump and the fascist GOP are committing an ethnic cleansing. ICE is terrorizing cities around the country, abducting American citizens, zip-tying children, breaking into homes without search warrants, pointing loaded weapons into the faces of children and their mothers. And this is your priority? Where is the joint resolution from the House condemning the illegal, brutal actions of ICE? Where is the joint resolution from the House condemning Donald Trump's comments, saying that he wants sitting members of Congress to be hanged? He retweeted a tweet from a dude with an iron cross as his profile picture, saying that sitting members of Congress should be hanged. Donald Trump then put out his own post calling for members of Congress to be put to death for telling members of the military what the law is, for reminding them that they do not have to obey unlawful orders. And that doesn't get a joint House resolution, but the We're Scared of Zoran Mamdani House resolution gets passed with 86 Democrats voting for it. I'm telling y'all, Democrats are two parties. They are two parties in one. There are progressive Democrats. Now, my congresswoman did not vote for this shit. And I just want to be really clear here. Hang on, I'm going to turn my light on first. The sun's setting. Oh, that's better. A lot of Democrats voted against this resolution. There are progressive Democrats who are willing to fight. They are becoming more bold. They understand that they need to represent their constituents, not dark money, not billionaire money, not corporate interest. And then we have the corporate establishment Democrats who are really beholden to the billionaires. They're really beholden to all of that money that runs them. They're beholden to their stock portfolios. And so they will vote for shit like this. The American people have an appetite for populism. The American people have an appetite for democratic socialism. And that scares the capitalists in Congress. That scares those representatives who are run and owned by dark money shitless. To me, this whole resolution read like a crash out. And if you think that Chuck Schumer refusing to endorse Zoran Mamdani did not influence what Democrats voted for this, if you think Hakeem Jeffries holding out until the very last second to endorse Zoran Mamdani was not a factor here in this resolution, I believe Jeffries voted yes on this resolution, by the way. If you think Citizens United, if you think the dark money running through our entire political system did not influence this, if you think that all of the oligarchy is not terrified of a populist movement where the people actually have things like healthcare, that we actually have fair taxation, where the rich pay their fair share and no longer exploit the rest of us, if you think that this resolution was not an absolute shit-fit panic, if this was not a giant fucking dose of copium from the House of Representatives, I got some news for you. You need only look at resolutions like this one to see whether or not your Democratic rep is actually on your side or whether they are in the pocket of corporations. The establishment, whether they are Republicans or Democrats, they don't have our best interest at heart. We need elected representatives who will represent us, the people. That's why Indivisible has Indivisible 2026. We've all got to get involved in the primaries because there are too many Democrats who have no interest in defending democracy. They just want to defend the oligarchy when it is to the detriment of us, the American people. We need representatives who will do what is best for us, not for their stock portfolio, not for the lobbyists in their ear. Shame on every Democrat who voted for this, but can't be bothered to stand up against fascism. Shame on every member of Congress who voted for this, but kept silent about Donald Trump's threats to kill sitting members of Congress. This resolution is an embarrassment.